there, fellow fantasy football freaks. Did you miss me? Yeah, I know some of you did. It was definitely nice to let my special guest take over for a week, but I'm happy to be back. In case you missed it, last week was Fantasy Freak Appreciation Week, and on each one of my shows, I dressed up in a different costume and did each show as that character in character. If you missed it, take a look last week. I know the information's irrelevant, but with Chris Jericho hosting the top 10 waiver wire picks, Gandalf the Grey on Mixed Notes, the late great Orson Welles doing the Thursday B&B, the Fantasy Vampire doing the Benches and Bumps Halloween special, and a little live Tinker Stinker Power Hour action from Zangief of Street Fighter. Hey, it was a lot of fun. Take a look. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, well, not everyone thought so. I got some comments from people saying that all the extra production doesn't work so well for them. And yeah, maybe this past week was a little bit much, but some people are saying that my usual week-to-week fun doesn't do it for them. Like my Thursday B&B show where I do the breakfast in bed, because you know, Thursday, Benches and Bumps, B&B, breakfast in bed. It's a joke. I thought it worked. A lot of people love it. Some people are not as much of a fan. But you know what? It's okay. I respect those of you who comment, especially when you tell me you're going to continue to view. You just want to give me a little heads up. Hey, I appreciate all feedback. Believe me, I take every comment very seriously. But you see, the whole purpose of the show is to be like an alternate show for those who don't like the normal boring guy in front of the mic kind of shit. Because there are hundreds of guys out there like that, but only one fantasy tyrant. Even the critics say at least my information's spot on. But take good information and good entertainment, mix it together, and we got something. No, it's not for everyone. Now there's hundreds of people out there doing mediocre fantasy shows in front of a mic. I'm just here to add a little something different to the mix. This is a fantasy show for people who are bored of regular fantasy shows. You see, most fantasy advice shows are like Coca-Cola. No frills, but solid. Everyone likes it just fine. It ain't gonna ruffle any feathers or make any splashes. It just is what it is, and that's good. But you see, my show is more like Dr. Pepper. Full of flavor, lots of variety. You never quite know what you're getting. And you're not always sure why it's good, but you know you love it. Now, most people drink Coke because it's solid, it's tried and true. But the more bold and daring, those who like a little spice in their life, tend to prefer something with a little more flavor. Hey now, there's nothing wrong with liking Coke. It's fine, it's refreshing. But if you want something with a little more flavor and excitement, here's your Dr. Pepper. From the Fantasy Armchair, it is the Fantasy TyRant. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Armchair. Back on the road again. This time, we ended up in the French Quarter of New Orleans, Louisiana. Hey, I wish I was here during Mardi Gras. Oh well, maybe someday. So anyway, we're halfway to our goal for this season. We hit 500 subscribers. Thank you so much for helping us reach that big goal. You've all been helping us along, hitting those goals time after time. This time we got a big one. 700 subscribers by the end of the month. You get that, and I've got a special holiday treat for you all. And you know I'm good on my promises, and if you think my treats before were good, this might be the biggest we've ever done. So if you haven't hit subscribe, do so. If you know people who like the show and haven't hit it yet, tell them to do so. Because if we reach 700 subscribers before the end of the month, yeah, I'm going to drop something better than I've ever dropped before. And I ain't talking about a deuce, okay? And speaking of promises of prizes, now all my super freaks on Patreon out there, you've got entries in this drawing, so pay attention. Now if you want to skip all this and get to any other part of the show, check out down below. I've got timestamps there for you. Alright, so here we go. I've got the magic hat here. As you can see, I've got lots of different names. Maybe you'll see yours. I don't know. Look at that. Look at all those names. That's right. I'm not going to cut this at all. All right, so I'm going to just draw out a name. That way you know I'm not, like, fudging the results or anything. I don't give a shit who wins. Whoever wins, they're getting a jersey of the player of their choice. It doesn't matter to me which one it is. So here we go. All right? The big reveal. Drum roll, please. There we go. All right. And the winner of the Grandprize Giveaway, the person getting a stitched jersey of a player of their choice is none other than Alejandro Meza. That's right, Alejandro. You done it, my friend. You get it. Hit me up either in the Patreon chat or on the Discord chat that I'm creating for the Fantasy Kingdom or on Facebook. However you want to get a hold of me, let me know who it is you want me to get for you. stitched jersey, all yours, buddy. Thanks, Alejandro, and thanks to everyone else. Sorry you didn't win this time, but because you're a Patreon member of mine, you get automatic entries in any drawing that I do. So big congrats to you, Alejandro. And if you want to be a winner just like him, sign up on Patreon. You get one-on-one advice, you get exclusive content, entries in the Grandprize Giveaways, all kinds of shit. You'll find the details on the link below in the description. But anyway, you know what that music means. That's right. It's time for my top 10 waiver wire picks for week 9. Number 10, Carlos Hyde. As you can see here, there's a caveat on this one. I have it in this spot because it's all contingent on the prognosis of James Robinson's heel injury, and we should know more about that later today or tomorrow. The Jaguars used Hyde earlier in this season, and we know that he can be effective, as he proved Sunday, going for a total of 72 yards on 9 rushes and 6 catches combined. The Jags will continue to use Hyde the same way they use J-Rob, should J-Rob miss any time. The thing is, we don't know how much time he's gonna miss, if any. Trust me, I've talked to doctors, I've researched this stuff. It could be weeks, or it could be days for his heel to heal. We'll know a bit more once he has that MRI. If he's gonna be back this week, I'd still like to pick up Hyde as a stash just in case. If Robinson does end up missing a week, Hyde would move up to about the 7th pickup. If it's a multi-week injury, Hyde moves up into the top 3. But if you own Robinson, what the fuck you doing? You should have had him already. Pick him up now. Number 9, Elijah Moore. Corey Davis was out on Sunday, and the coach said that he wouldn't have practiced on Monday if they had practiced. The Jets play against the Colts on Thursday Night Football, and while Davis has a chance to play, it's likely that he's held out another week and saved up for a divisional matchup against the Bills next week. So Elijah Moore becomes an interesting pickup and play this week against the Colts, who just gave up the moon to A.J. Brown and are about as effective at combating the passing game as Gary Busey is at combating insanity. Yeah, not good. The second-round rookie wide receiver has been getting some more usage in the offense, both in the passing and rushing games, even when Davis was healthy. So he's good for more than just this week. This past week, he caught all of his 6 targets for 67 yards. The uncertainty at QB keeps him from moving up this list, but if all you're looking for is a lottery ticket, take a chance on Elijah Moore. Number 8, Van Jefferson. Remember a few years back when the Rams had a trio of wide receivers that were fantasy viable in Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks? Yeah, they were the 3 Ramigos. I said 3 Ramigos. Anyway, then Cooks went away and the trio became a duo. Yeah, well, Van Jefferson is now the 3rd guy, so the 3 Ramigos have returned. He's put up double-digit fantasy points in 3 out of the last 5 weeks, and he's got at least 6 targets in 4 out of the last 6 games. This week against the Titans will be a juicy matchup, and he's got some other great matchups to end the season. So andale, pick up the 3rd Ramigo before he's tomado. That means taken, not tomato, okay? Number 7, Pat Freiermuth. Before the season began, a lot of us analysts were talking about Baby Gronk as being a sleeper this year. Well, I think someone woke that baby up. 7 targets and over 12 fantasy points per week the last couple weeks. I think the aging Big Ben has found his security blanket. Cleveland was top 10 against tight ends, but they didn't stop Freiermuth from catching 4 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown this past week. Ben is throwing to Baby Gronk more and more as the season progresses, so I expect big numbers from Big Pat. The rest of the season looks pretty good too. If you're worried about Dalton Schultz losing work with Gallup coming back, Baby Gronk is a good insurance policy. Snag him up. Speaking of Michael Gallup, number 6, Michael Gallup. No, I didn't do that on purpose. Being awesome just comes natural. Speaking of awesome, the Cowboys wide receivers, despite Cooper Rush starting for Dak, are still playing well, and Michael Gallup is expected back this week. Cedric Wilson saw an uptick of targets and production in place of Gallup, but I think he takes all that back as he returns this week. A healthy shot in the arm is exactly what the Cowboys need, and I think Gallup will provide that for them as they make a big playoff push, opening a commanding lead in their division at 6-1. Having a wide receiver in fantasy that's in a potent offense is always a good idea, and Gallup has proven that he can do special things, so get him while you still can. Number 5, Rashad Bateman. One thing you should always do when playing fantasy football is watch out for the drops on bye weeks. Some managers get a little drop friendly, and you could swoop in like a vulture or James Conner and snatch him up. After a promising start in the first couple weeks of his career, Bateman was dropped in many leagues, with the Ravens on a bye in Week 8. He's only 31% owned in Yahoo leagues, and there's some real good meat left on that schedule, including this week against the Vikings, who are giving up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. He's not going to be a consistent home run hitter right away, but as the season progresses, he should see more and more targets and produce at a flex level or higher with them before the season is out. Potential playoff sleeper here, worth a stash at least. Number 4, Devontae Parker.
You know, he's like a turd that won't flush.
Just when you think he's fading away from fantasy relevancy, bam! He comes right back in week 8 with 8 catches on 11 targets for 85 yards. Parker was actually second behind Waddle on targets from Tua, but caught a lot more of them. Tua connected with Parker last season, and even though Waddle's his guy, Parker still has a lot of use in this offense, at least from a fantasy perspective. A lot of people dropped him, haha, another turd joke, when he was injured, but forgot to pick him back up. He's available in 65% of leagues, so if he's available in yours, go get him, or your season could go plop right down the tubes. Number 3, Justin Fields. Yeah, I've been waiting for the right moment to feature this guy on here. He was an honorable mention last week, and I told you he'd be worth a pickup if he improves. Well, after putting up the 5th most fantasy points for QBs in week 8, I think we're there. It's all gold from here, so if you need a QB, this is one to grab off the waiver wires, and at only 22% ownership, chances are he's available in your league. Yeah, this could be an overreaction to one good game, but he's a rookie quarterback, and it looks like he's putting it together. So that one good game is more likely to be a harbinger for things to come, rather than just a fluke. He's a mobile QB, so the sky's the limit for him as far as his fantasy point potential is concerned. His connection with pass catchers is starting to improve as well. Darnell Mooney is his guy, so having the two of them together in a stack may be a good idea. And for Mooney, you can probably wait to get him in the morning without having to put in a claim. The matchup this week against Pittsburgh isn't the greatest, and then the Bears are on a bye. But after that, his schedule looks juicier than a porterhouse steak cooked in a college co-ed's, well, you get the picture. Snatch him up. See what I did there? Number 2, Adrian Peterson. If you thought we'd be talking about Adrian Peterson as a pickup off the waiver wire this season, raise your hand. Put your hand down, you liar. King Henry finally blew a tire, and while that may have been a little more predictable, Adrian Peterson being his replacement certainly wasn't. But here we are. Yeah, he's 36, and he's way past the prime of a typical running back's career, but this is Adrian fucking Peterson we're talking about. Definitely not a typical running back. And apparently, the dude kept himself in impeccable shape. No, I'm not a fan of his past off-field actions, but he's apologized for what he's done in the past, and apparently has become a better father in the process. I'm all about giving people a second chance when deserved, on or off the field, and he's gonna get one on the field now. The Titans have one of the best running games in the league, and yeah, a lot of that has to do with King Henry, because the O-line has more holes in it than a wheel of Swiss cheese in Jason Biggs' fridge. Yeah, you remember him as the pie fucker, right? Good. Then let's move on. Despite the bad O-line, the Titans' game plan centers around the run, and AP is more than capable of executing. Maybe not on the same level he used to, or even on the level Derrick Henry can now, but he'll likely have RB2 potential with upside for at least a little while, if not the rest of the season. The potential is worth the pickup, and chances are he at least pans out to a weekly flex starter. So spend the fab, about 20% or so, or your waiver wire spot on him. There's only one guy I like on this list more, and my number 1 waiver wire pick for week 9 is Boston Scott. Alright, so we were all wrong about Gainwell being the guy, okay? I'll take it. Not only did he lose touches to Boston Scott, which some of us saw as a possibility, but what absolutely no one saw was the coming re-emergence of Jordan Howard. I'll be honest, I thought maybe he retired or something. He was just activated to the active roster this last week, and was given about the same attention as Gainwell, but more goal line work. As flabbergasted as we all were watching Jordan Howard fill the stat sheet, it was Boston Scott who looked more like the workhorse back, even though carries were evenly distributed at about 12 apiece. Both he and Jordan Howard got 2 touchdowns, while Gainwell was left in the dust. Now, I don't think Jordan Howard's production will sustain, but Boston Scott certainly could. He ran well in relief of Sanders last season, and everyone was clamoring to get him as Sanders handcuffed this season until all the buzz about Gainwell started to swell, and he passed up Scott on the depth chart. Depth charts be damned, that's why we watch the games, and what I'm seeing is Boston Scott heading up the committee. And since this newly pledged commitment to the run seems to be a real thing, considering they all ran the ball 46 times, resulting in 4 touchdowns and a blowout victory, I don't see them moving away from this game plan anytime soon. So even in a committee, Boston Scott could end up having a few more good weeks until Sanders comes back. Right now, wins are crucial and harder to come by during the bye weeks. And if it's even just for a few weeks, getting an RB2 with RB1 potential is extremely valuable. I think Scott has more immediate value than AP, but less value toward the end of the season. So it really depends on what you want. But if you need wins now, and most of us do, pick up Boston Scott. Until next week anyway, when we say to drop him for Jordan Howard. Dear Lord, I hope that's just a joke and not a prophecy. So that's it for my top 10, but here's some honorable mentions. Number 11, 12, and 13 will be Darnell Mooney, Jamison Crowder, and Dan Arnold respectively. Mooney I explained a bit earlier. But Crowder, well, he's just a good pickup while Davis is injured. We'll keep an eye on that quarterback situation, though, and see how that fares for the wide receivers. And Dan Arnold, he's just getting more and more attention from Lawrence every week. Keep an eye on him at least. Cedric Wilson is interesting, although I question his usage now that Michael Gallup's going to be back. Kind of the same thing with Randall Cobb. Lazard and MVS are coming back, and Devontae Adams will be back soon enough. There'll be another week for Adams, though, from what I've heard. Jamal Agnew seems to be Lawrence's go-to guy. Not Laviska Shenault, not Marvin Jones. If he has another good week, I might be adding him to the list. Rex Burkhead does this shit every season. He's got like a couple good games, people think he's gonna be a big thing, and then he doesn't do shit. More of a DFS punt than anything. Raekwon Smith is an interesting ad. I had him ahead of Callaway in my pre-draft rankings, that is before he got injured. Now that he's back, I think he's gonna end up being the number 2 behind Michael Thomas when Michael Thomas comes back. Of course, all that depends on the quarterback situation going forward, so keep an eye on that too. Tajay Sharp and Russell Gage should be seeing a lot more work now that Calvin Ridley took his ball and went home. Both are getting the same amount of targets, but Gage seemed to be a little bit ahead in pecking order, probably because he knows the offense a little bit more. Targets and catches went up for CJ Uzomah, but production went down. Keep an eye on him too. Nico Collins is a very interesting prospect. Nah, I'm not big on any Texans, but I'm interested to see what this young upstart does once Tyrod Taylor comes back. Jeremy McNichols is worth a look. Yeah, I know, AP's going to be the one that's handling most of the carries in that offense. Even with Derrick Henry fully healthy, McNichols was getting some work. I have a feeling he gets a little more work than usual, even with AP handling the early down carries. Might actually be a committee in the first week or two. Either way, he's worth a speculative ad. Jeff Wilson Jr. is coming off the IR, while Eli Mitchell is a little bit banged up. We got to keep an eye on that injury and see where Jeff Wilson goes from here. My buddy Vinny has got an article coming out called Coach's Corner, and he's going to talk all about Jeff Wilson Jr. on that one, so keep an eye on that coming out a little later. Of course, that's just a Patreon exclusive, so you got to sign up to see that. And finally, is Mike White better than Zach Wilson? Hey, it's not that crazy of a question. If he's cleared to play this week and has another good one, he might be going on the list too. Alright, so that's it, fantasy football freaks. I hope that helps. Get those waiver claims in tonight, and good luck on those. If you like the show, hit the like. It's that simple. Hit that thumbs up, and hit that subscribe if you haven't yet, because we want to hit 700 subscribers before the end of the month. Do that, and I've got a holiday treat ready for all yous. You're not going to want to miss out on this one, so hit that button, share with everyone you know, and hit the bell so you don't miss a show. I didn't mean to rhyme that. It just happens sometimes. Anyway, I'll see you all tomorrow evening for Mixed Notes. Until then, I'm out. Peace.